Alright, welcome to the Machinedramon gameplay guide. Really excited to be trying this out. Very powerful stuff in this whole archetype. We are playing against the EX9 DM trait Omnimon Ultra deck. We are going second here. I decided to keep the hand because all I really want to see is Ukomon. I am playing the purple base. I'm trying to cycle to trash cards away, and the whole idea is to set up the trash for the assembly parts so that we can reduce our play cost of Machinedramon by having as many level 5 cyborgs as possible in the trash that we can utilize and gather the inheritables. I'm going to set up the analog man's memory setter as soon as I can, which is going to be super helpful to first of all help us establish a black source so that we can use any of our black option cards if we ever get into any, but also that when we play out our Machinedramons or anything that's level 5 or higher, 7 cost or higher cyborg stuff, we can suspend it to gain a memory back and also draw cards and tuck something underneath face down from our hand as well to add more sources that we need to. So there I was a little bit in an awkward position where I didn't really have like the best hand in terms of like dropping a level 5 that I really want to. I felt like there was nothing that I need to remove on the opponent's side of the board just yet, so I decided to just play the other older analog man that helps me cycle through at the start of main, and then just pass the opponent to 3 memory, and then now they want to push out and going into their Mamemon, which is pretty crazy. You guys can see like by having 3 face down sources with Mamemon, when they go into it, they can play out another Mamemon, and they're just comboing off like that. And with that kind of setup, all they want to do is try to set up a potential Blast Ace to go into the level 6s, either Blitzgray or Crest-Garurumon. If not, they can go into themselves and then they DNA into Alter S. Generally in this matchup, I learned is that we want to outpace them a little bit. Although Machinedramon is a medium towards slow-paced deck, they also take quite some time to ramp up as well, but I feel like our late game payoff compared to the DM trait of the Omnimon Ultra deck is way higher. We can do a lot more crazy things. We have a lot of toolboxing, and I'm not worried at all because we have the ultimate protection in this deck as well. I love Tapermon with the Demimeramon together because when we get deleted, we can draw, and then we can also trash a level 5 off our hand to draw another 2 cards, and that's the fastest way to filter through the trash. Once again, I'm already at 4 pieces. Making sure that I need to have different names, I can actually consider assembling and going into Machinedramon already, but I kind of see a little bit better play right here because that board that they have is kind of scary. And I experienced that if they're able to gain that so much memory, because they do have Analog Man with double Analog Youth, they can easily go into like Blitzgray and then Digivolve and then go into a Crest-Gar and then potentially just DNA and do a ton of damage to us out of nowhere. So I feel like I have to deal with this board. This is when I realized I can actually hard drop the Metal Tyrannomon, suspend the Analog Man just like how I explained earlier to gain memory back and keep turn, so that we only pay that for 4 in total, but we want to make sure we tuck a face down card from our hand underneath it because we want to rack up as many of that as possible to get the maximum benefit effects of Metal Tyrannomon, allowing us to de-Digivolve 2 on the opponent's Metal Mamemon, since the bottom source is a face down card after all. So that means it gets trashed, and we get to delete something 3k, which is going to be targeting that Nume. And rather, instead of just normally trying to assemble and hard play the Machinedramon, one of the best value plays is actually you can Digivolve for 3 cost on top of any DM trait, and the new Metal Tyrannomon is DM trait, so then we can then utilize its on-play effect. Although we don't have as many inheritables comparing to assembly, but we still get to remove the entire board because I want to tuck in the Andromon to DP reduce the remaining Mamemon, and that absolutely just annihilates the opponent's entire board, preventing them from potentially going to level 6, and they have to rebuild all over again. And now we're sitting in a fantastic position with multiple instances of protection with Machinedramon, which is absolutely insane. They can't remove us. They have to rebuild all over again and set up and try to find pieces, or maybe Digivolve up all the way. But in the meantime, we can start attacking into them as much as we can with our first initial Machinedramon. We have a second one that we can work with in a later stage of the game, but we're continuing to scale, continuing to ramp up very nicely. Although we have a blocker and just piercing, but my whole idea in the next turn is just try to attack as much as I can and rack up more inheritables, and the longer my Machinedramon stays, the better it is going to be for me, because then turn after turn I can add more sources underneath it. And otherwise I can continue to hatch my egg and then Digivolve in the back and continue to set up while at it. Looks like the opponent feels like they might be in danger, and their only play looks like here is to drop the Mamemon and then use Analog Man and the Analog Use to cycle through cards. It looks like they're actually missing a level 4, so they really need it. But with Mamemon, they get to play out either the Analog Youth or even the Greymon that was revealed right there, which is kind of neat. And the cool thing is that the Analog Youth does have a DM trait as well, so they can consider going for that, and that's what they're going to be going for, because I feel like they need to cycle more cards. Now, by having a level 5 does pressure against the ace against us. We're going to use the start of main of Analog Man to toss away the Morgrow X, and then gain memory and draw, set up our Uko Rookie, and here we can go into the Alterous mode with the when attacking effect of Machinedramon. So we can use the on-play effect of that effect to delete something that's AK or lower, getting rid of the level 5, so then we're not giving any opportunity for the opponent to ace. And now we can just set up for potential lethal in the following turn. I think the opponent can go pretty explosive in the following, even with just one rookie, because they have 3 Analog Youths and a Analog Man. So I'm just trying to gather as much momentum as I can, but I don't really have like the best cards to play, and I don't want to continue to attack just yet. There's no need to really establish another Machinedramon just yet, because I feel like I can wait a little bit. That's why I just decided to play my own Analog Youth, which is from the EX9, which I really like to help me also like find specific pieces, especially grabbing the Machinedramon when I need it in my hand and then trashing everything else, which ideally the best high roll would be trashing our level 5s, setting it up right there as quickly as possible. So the opponent comes down with a Blitzgreymon. Looks like we predicted. I think they are missing like a level 4 or 5 to continue to climb up, which is probably why they're not pushing up at all. But hard dropping the Blitzgrey like that and then using all the Analog Mans and Analog Youth synergy all together, they're drawing a ton of cards, gaining all the memory back. And that is pretty much like a 3 memory play, which is crazy. Digivolving, getting rid of our Machinedramon, which again, I don't mind this stack being removed at the moment because I'm not as worried, just because the second stack that I'm ready to go is going to be way more powerful. They're going to drop the Kresgurumon there just to bottom deck our level 5, and now swing for 2 checks with the Alterous with full on immunity. And with the end of attack, they get to go back into security, recovering 1, which kind of probably keeps them in the game a little bit, as we may not have the potential lethal to counter against them. We have to deal with their double blockers, which they have as well. So we're just going to push out with Ukomon, but we have a ton of memory here, which I think this might be the best opportunity to actually try and close the game out. So pitching away the Jet Sylphie with starter main with Analog Man, and then we're going to draw and gain 1 as well. Now I'm checking all my assembly pieces, because now instead of Digivolving, I can pretty much go for the assembly play. I do have attack of the heavy mobile Digimon as well, so I want to utilize that to gain rush and blitz and try to attack this particular turn. So with all the different level 5s I have right now, I'm just considering what is the best way to deal with this board. Now the thing is, I need to play around another potential Omnimon Alterous, even though I have protection, which I'm not really worried against it generally, but just to play around it and not to let the opponent go into another one, I want to find a way to actually just play around this. But I gotta be careful not to just remove the Blitzgrey and the Kresgar, because the Kresgar will allow them to DNA. So I actually thought of a different plan where I can actually utilize the Metal Tyranno, which I'm putting aside at the moment, just to suspend down their blocker so that they can block my attack. And then otherwise, I don't have to really worry about removing those bodies, because all I have to do is just attack. Machinedramon has become a very outright aggressive deck with many toolbox cards like that. And then we can use Analog Man once again, tuck a source underneath, and we want to rack up as many different sources as possible, even if it's face down, because we can use the face down sources to give our Machinedramon protection there. So now I'm considering, okay, do I need to use the on-play effect right yet? No, not yet. I'm actually going to swing it with Uko first and see what they do. And if they don't block right here, I get to gain a lot of value, because I know it's going to get deleted no matter what, because I can cycle and draw more cards. And then what I'm going to do is going to attack with Machinedramon, and then use this one attacking effect instead of the on-play to tuck the Metal Tyranno underneath. And because I'm suspended, I actually gain Digivolve protection for the entire turn, just in case if they play anything like that. But I'm going to go for like 2 checks right there, and it looks like they're going to let it through. So then we can use the Megadramon, which is absolutely insane as well. At the end of the attack, it gets unsuspended, but then we have to just delete our own stack, which we can actually protect ourselves with the Machinedramon and protection effect as well, just to trash the bottom 2 sources. And now this is where we want to go into Chaosdramon X, where we can retuck the Megadramon back. And that's the idea, where you want to keep the Megadramon at the bottom source of your combo when you're going for it, because now we get to unsuspend, swing, and finish it off just like that. This game, we're facing off against Chimeramon with the new DM trait stuff, which is pretty interesting because they can take on many different versions and iterations depending on the egg that they play. We are going second, and this hand looks great for us. Uko plus an Analog Youth, that's all I really want to see, just to start cycling, finding, searching, as well as just setting up our trash. Generally, this matchup can be tricky just because Chimeramon is kind of like us as well. Instead of like assembly with level 5 cyborgs, they assembly with level 4s, which can give them a ton of toolbox of effects. They can suspend, they can pierce, they can jam, they can de-digivolve, they have blocker and such. And a crazy ton of effects that we just sometimes don't know how to play around it, because every Chimeramon player can tech in almost anything that they want, and we just can't expect everything to play around all of it. So we're just gonna go ahead and cycle as much as we can and start drawing, pushing out the Uko, Digivolve the Taper, setting it up, and just go ahead and attack right away, just because I have a feeling they can pretty much like get rid of us if we don't do anything. So sometimes I like to keep the Uko on the board as I push out my secondary rookie. I can search for additional cards, which is going to be ideal. But once again, if I had a feeling, gut feeling as well, if I want to chip away security, I want to keep pushing for aggression as much as I can. Generally, I play a very aggressive playstyle with the Machinedramon deck, especially with the combination of these purple cards in the bottom end. The idea is to try to chip, and then eventually you just want to assembly or just Digivolve, hard drop your level 5s, just like what you guys saw before in the previous game. It looks like the opponent goes into the Chimeramon themselves right here with meat, reducing the cost by 2, and thanks to Tokomon, I believe Chimeramon and Tokomon together are version 3, so they can further reduce by another 1, evoing for 2, and instantly it's going to be 2 checks jamming. We got super lucky here for sure with the attack of Heavy Mobile Digimon. I was contemplating letting it go and just letting it live, but the thing is I probably don't want to let that happen, because if the Chimeramon lives for as long as possible, they can start chunking us 2 security at a time, and it's still relatively early in the game, which we're not set up yet. We're not prepared. As much as I want to keep the Chaosdramon X earlier, I end up trashing it from my hand just for the sake of deleting Chimeramon. And I do notice they have another one in trash, so there's going to be only another 2 Chimeramons that they have to go through. But the thing is, this deck has Skullgreymon, which is a really good level 5 as well, secondary to Chimeramon, which helps them grab Chimeramon back from the trash as well. So we're going to continue trying to chip away as much as we can with Tapermon, and it looks like it. Speak of the devil, trashing top cards from your deck, setting up more level 4s potentially, and then grabbing that Chimeramon back there too. So yeah, here they probably want to swing with the Skullgray as much as they can as well, and it can have like the Undulation float a level 4 back, which can kind of disrupt our plays as well if we ever try to remove it. Otherwise, it's going to continue to beat us down over and over. But it looks like they're going to swing into our Tapermon here because they do have piercing as well, so we get to use a bunch of Undulations there. They swing and crash into our Metal Tyrannomon, which is also 7k, equal to them. So now they get deleted and they get to play something out back from trash. One of the cards that I noticed that they have right there is actually Monochromon, and that's a huge counter against us. We only really have the Metal Tyrannomon from EX9 that can give us de-digivolve protection, which you guys saw from the previous game. And just by de-digivolving Machinedramon, we lose all of our value essentially. We lose our protection, we lose our pressure to attack, we lose our inherited effects altogether pretty much. And that's something I need to deal with right away. So I'm going to go ahead and start cycling once again. Having multiple analog mans from BT11 is just so good value. I decided to Digivolve into Taper instead of like Uko here because my intention was to actually just give the opponent as less memory as possible by the end of this turn. So I wanted to go ahead and start assembly and stack right here and get rid of that Monochromon. And there's much better ways to remove this because I felt like, okay, you know what? The best one would be actually Metal Mamemon because it allows me to bottom deck the Monochromon and get rid of it entirely so they can't get access into it. And I don't know how many they're playing, but at least I can hope to get rid of it so that way I don't have to see it again. So by doing so, that gets rid of it, passing the opponent to 2. And technically next turn, I'm pretty much ready to go for Lethal Punch right here because I set up the Megadramon once again. As you guys can see, I have the War Growl X, which gives me security attack +1. I can swing with Taper, swing 2 checks with Machinedramon, unsuspend, and finish the game off if they don't have anything on the board to stop us here at any moment. So the game is pretty much in our hands. They do have a second Monochromon in their hand, and that's tricky, which they do de-digivolve us, but I'm not worried at all because I have a second Machinedramon I can use in my hand, and by making sure that I'm tucking in the DM trait or organizing that the DM trait cards are at the top of the stack with Machinedramon, I can easily Digivolve it for 3 once again. So they don't have blocker or anything to redirect us. I'm going to go ahead and attack with the Taper anyways because that will end up being deleted if I choose to swing with my big stack first because Megadramon deletes my lowest level Digimon on the board, which will be the Taper, so might as well get that out of the way. And then now I can Digivolve into that, and then now I can also tuck something underneath. I could get rid of that Monochromon just because So I'm going to D-Digivolve it and then pretty much get rid of that stack source and swing for 2 checks and then hope to unsuspend so that I can finish it off. But this is absolutely crazy. I did not expect to see this card at their final security check, and this makes me regret everything that I shouldn't have D-Digivolved them with the Metal Tyrannomon, because now they get to play Monochromon hitting into File Island. I don't get to unsuspend. I don't get to protect myself with Machinedramon anymore. Oh my goodness. What a crazy security comeback. And you guys gotta learn, okay, yeah, when you play against Chimeramon, watch out for File Island. What I did here in the end is I decided to unsuspend anyways and delete myself, because I feel like I just need to give the opponent very little memory. Just give them 1 memory and choke them at 1. I should be fine and I can finish them off the following turn. So I end up deleting my own stack so I can suspend Analog Youth, hatch an egg so I can get that rookie momentum. And then the next turn, I should be okay. I put them to 1, play another Analog Youth, and that's it. And the next turn, I can easily just push out and swing. I do have Attack of Heavy Mobile Digimon as well if I need to use it. I do have a Chaosdramon that I can hard drop if I can gain enough memory, which I probably will with Analog Man anyways. And the opponent is going to come out with the rookie that they push out. They're going to use the Analog Use, which pretty much gives them like extra 2 memory to work with 3 memory. So we're trying to see if they actually have lethal here or not. And surprisingly, they actually do, because now with the 7 sources that they have with different level 4s, they can play this Chimera out no problem. And oh my goodness, I still have to admit that Fire Island definitely caught me off guard. Swing for 2 checks, and I didn't count for the level 4s that they have, that they already have enough. At this moment, we can only really hope for a security to potentially find another Attack of Heavy Mobile Digimon so they can delete their lethal play. They do check into a Supreme Connection, which is nice if we can try to survive for this turn. But even with that, unfortunately, we won't be able to survive, so the opponent got it this time. This time, we're facing off against AVAULT, and we are going second, which is actually not as good for us compared to them, because it's better for them to go first so that they can go ahead and start cycling their egg and hatch and get the momentum going. And once they're able to set up their AVAULT, especially with core together, things can get a little bit tricky. Although I'm not really super worried, just because Machinedramon has protection, which is pretty good against it generally. But the idea is that we want to be able to go first so that we can actually rush them down. But instead here, I still kept my hand anyways because I had Uko and I had an Analog Man, which I'm going to go ahead and set up right away, which is going to give me the long-term value through the rest of the game. So the opponent tries to use Parabolic Junk and try to chip away at our security and try to have their scatter mode get deleted so they can gain 2 and sort of like go for some like memory efficient plays, which unlucky for them, but lucky for us, they ran to Ukomon instead. So they're going to go for another scatter mode and put us down to 1 memory by going into a regular Eismon. We're going to push out the Uko right away and just try to find our pieces as quickly as possible and start trashing and start drawing with Analog Man. Here I'm contemplating if I should actually just go ahead and swing with the Uko right away first, because in the next turn they have collision anyways. That way I can just draw and trash 1 card anyways, and I don't think it's going to make a huge difference overall because, you know, the Eismon is actually pretty tricky, pretty good at removing small bodies and chip strategies like our Uko right here, and they can redirect their attack with their Digi-Egg, so we're never able to push through as quickly as we want to. But in the following turn, I feel like I'm okay as well, but they keep ramping up with more bodies on the board, and with that, they can start redirecting many attacks because now they have 3 Digi-Eggs to utilize. I need to find a way to deal with them as quickly as I can. We are slowly getting there. We are having our lower 5s and starting to gather them eventually so that I can go for an assembly play, but I only really have 2 sources that I can use right now. I have 2 Metal Grays and 1 Macao at the moment, and I have to make sure that I have different names in order to use assembly as well. So I'm going to go ahead and once again just to push out the Uko and start cycling, and I'm just going to go grab the Metal Tyranno just because I really like the D-Digivolving aspect that it provides. Here I actually find an opportunity to actually go for a Mugendramon play, which is definitely going to come in clutch right here because I'm considering that I could just drop it for 5 cost because I get to trash another cyborg to reduce it by 2, put the opponent to 1, and tuck a source face down from trash so that I can actually pop both scatter modes on the sides so that I can then get rid of their Digi-Egg redirections. So with that, this is pretty good. And the reason why I didn't chip with the Uko this time, because it actually would be meaningful to keep it standing, just because they still have that regular Eismon on the board that is actually 8k and has collision. So now if they choose to collision and make an attack, we can at least choose to block with the Uko without sacrificing our Mugendramon, because in the next turn or following, I can actually try to Digivolve it up into a Machinedramon instead of just trying to use assembly, which can also help us gather a pretty good momentum throughout the course. Now they're already on their last egg with their Digi Egg, which now makes it kind of scary, because if they're able to find their pieces and gather it out, they can get it out, and then that way they can go into a Abytal, and Abytal core will be set up ready to go, which is definitely really scary, because just because of the amount of power damage that Abytal core can exert can suddenly just like take us out of nowhere. So there is a little bit of back and forth. There is a bit of a control game that we want to be able to, you know, neutralize their board and not make them have as much value as possible. And because I noticed that they don't have a memory setter, they don't have a lot of memory to work with either, we want to make sure that we're always constantly putting them to one memory with as little to work with as possible if we can. So they're going to go for the collision attack. We're definitely going to block with that Uko there, as you guys saw, and like I mentioned earlier, and keeping the Mugendramon alive. They're going to go for a black memory boost search, trying to see what they're going to pick up here. I wonder if they're going to grab the Raramon, which can potentially de-Digivolve our Mugendramon, and then, you know, if it's a face down card afterwards, it gets trashed anyways. But it looks like they decided to go for pick up a scatter mode, so that they want to desperately like try to draw in trash cards perhaps. But here, the next turn, I'm just going to push out the Taper, and I have to see where to go, because now they have 2 Digi Egg cards once again that I'm going to have to try to play around, which is not easy because they can just redirect our rookie attacks. But it looks like they're going into a Edamon right here, which is going to taunt us and force us to attack. Now, I think this is a pretty okay position for us to be in. We're going to go ahead and attack with the Mugendramon. I'm not sure if they're going to have an ace to counter against us or not, which they can play abundance of that. And they are going to let the security attack go through, but with our Mugendramon being deleted because it had a source, we can suspend analog to hatch and gain a memory. And now at 5 memory, which is actually pretty good too. I can actually try to find a way to potentially clear the board, but first I'm going to go ahead and attack and chip away with Taper, just so I can see some cards I can draw. They're going to redirect it with the scatter mode right there. And then we get to draw, and then we get to pitch away something, and then kind of like set up and see how we want to go for a assembly play potentially. So I'm going to Digivolve into Taper instead of Digivolving into Uko, because like I mentioned, I want to give them as little memory to work with as possible, and I'm intending to just like put them at 1 by going into Machinedramon. I do have Attack of the Heavy Mobile Digimon, so I'm trying to see how I can sequence this to clear both bodies off the board, or if not at least one. I definitely want to deal with the Edamon just because I can see that they have a Abytal core in the trash. So if they find an Abytalmon, they can still easily Digivolve on top of it, and then they get to set up that core right there, which is not what I want to happen. So I'm trying to see, or maybe potentially, can I actually go for even more aggressive plays, or should I actually play out a level 5 so that I can trash a cyborg to reduce the cost so that I still go to 0 and I can Digivolve for 3, but I feel like that's too much memory. So now I'm going to gather my sources. So I'm trying to see what I want to tuck away here. I'm considering like the middle Mamemon. I'm actually putting the Cyberdramon Ace on the side because I feel like if I can de-Digivolve twice, I can actually get rid of both things, because I want to use this on play to de-Digivolve the scatter mode, which will turn into a egg because they don't have a level 3, so that means it gets trashed. And then I can swing into the Edamon because I get on play Rush and Blitz. And then just like you guys saw before, always trying to make sure to tuck the Mugendramon that allows me to unsuspend with the inherent effect at the very bottom, just in case, because I have a Chaosdramon that I can get into. So I'm going to use Cyberdramon to cycle, which is absolutely value there, hitting another analog man. And then now I get to de-Digivolve the Ede, swing into the suspended Eismon, and then on swing with the Cyberdramon Ace to de-Digivolve further, clearing their entire board, putting them only to 1 memory, and not needing to use Mugendramon's effect to unsuspend, as instead I use Metal Mamemon at the end of turn to unsuspend here, and now I can potentially pressure a lethal amount of attacks. If I can grab security +1 somewhere later on, I can just chunk them down, go into Chaos X, and do that crazy combo and one-shot them out of nowhere from 4 to 0 security, winning the game as well. The opponent is going to be in a tricky spot right here now, because they're going to have to force to use their Black Memory Boost. They're going to go ahead and assembly and go into Abytalmon here, which is going to be for 5 memory, and then they get to place the core into their breeding, which is there to counter. So it is finally here. They're going to try to delete us with the Abytalmon end of turn effect, We're going to protect ourselves for sure, which is why I love Machinedramon right here, having that kind of protection. So now I'm trying to see how we can utilize the memory that we have, whether we can actually try to push for lethal or push for game. With the quadruple Digi-8 that they have, that means they can redirect like 4 times, which is insane. So I feel like I kind of missequenced my cyborgsdramon stacks a little bit suboptimally there from the prior turn, because I should have put a level 5 at the top, ensuring that I draw into it so that I can pitch it away with Analog Man to gain a memory and cycle through another card. So that was definitely a mistake right there that I could have actually done way better for sure. But either way, I'm trying to see how I can deal with this AVAULTmon and the core at the same time if I can, or if I should in this turn. Because if I don't, the next turn it gets pretty crazy. So I'm going to go ahead and swing with Machinedramon. Going to tuck the Megadramon because I want to be able to unsuspend at the end of attack. And then I'm going to be able to delete my Tapermon. I'm not going to swing with the Tapermon just because I want to use it to delete with Megadramon's effect so that I can use the undeletion effects. They're going to redirect the attack anyways too. So that way I don't have to waste my sources. And I feel like sources might be really important to keep at this particular moment, because once they push out this AVAULTmon core, they can start like swinging non-stop and collision, and I definitely need to have as many sources as I can to keep my Machinedramon on the board. I also do have Ace Overflow -3 because of cyborgsdramon Ace, so that can be a little bit of a liability that I have to keep in mind as I work with it. And they do decide to push out with AVAULT core. They're not going to redirect the attack into the regular AVAULTmon just because then we can just take it down, get rid of it, and they are going to delete our Tapermon first so that we can use our undeletions to draw, and we can also trash and then draw 2. And now we get to go for that one check. So they're not going to block the attack there just yet. We're going to trash our own sources with Megadramon to delete ourselves by protecting with Machinedramon. Now we get to go into Chaos X. With Chaos X, we can retuck something back underneath and try to control the board once again and see how we can deal with the AVAULT core. I'm going to tuck the Metal Tyrannomon there so that I can have a face down source and de-digivolve it by 1. So now we have dealt with the AVAULT core, which is really good because they don't have protection generally. So we have really good removal and we have all the tools that we need. And now I can consider attacking once again, but I feel like they could be still in danger where I don't want to necessarily do that, because if I do attack, I feel like the next turn they can go into AVAULT core with the scramble, and then with the regular AVAULTmon, they're going to end of turn try to delete us, so we're going to lose our source, and now our cyborgsdramon Ace is at the very bottom, which we're going to be forced to trash it if they ever try to delete us. And you guys will see just in a bit the reason why I chose not to attack and I chose just to stay put for now and see how it goes, because they're going to scramble and grab the core to place it to the top of their deck. And then they can recycle with their new eggs once again and start going and revamping and reduce their costs, but they're gonna have to start all over again. But that means they can potentially go into AVAULT core for 4 costs, forcing us to get deleted. We're gonna protect ourselves, and then we're gonna Ace Overflow 3 so that they actually keep turn. And then when that happens, they're gonna try to swing and they can kind of collision and sequence like a ton of attacks. Looks like they don't have a Raremon to unsuspend because it's kind of stuck on the other stack initially right there at the moment. So they use a second scramble to digivolve instead. And now they're going to tuck sources underneath to attempt to delete our Chaos X. Now they did make a little mistake here where they tucked the sources at the bottom, which it should be at the top instead. But I don't think it's going to matter too much anyways, because the next turn we're going to go some for crazy plays that we are going to try to finish the game off anyways. We are going to protect the first instance, giving them Ace Overflow, and because cyborgsdramon X is about to be deleted, we get to trash their top card of security with its once per turn effect. Here we're no longer able to protect any further because we only have a Machinedramon left with a level 5, which we need level 5 cyborgs or face down cards in order to keep our stack alive. So now they go for the 2 checks, finding ourselves in Analog Youth, and they can only really end the turn by passing us back to 3 with a scattered mode, and we have quite a lot of resources to work with at this moment. So we're going to go ahead and use the starter main once again of Analog Man and try to gain as much advantage in memory and cyclability as possible. And here once again, thinking of how I want to digivolve into my rookie. Do I want to go into Uko to pay that 1 memory, or I decide to go into Taper instead? And now I'm going to go with Attack of the Heavy Mobile Digimon, because now that will allow me to gain everything with On Play, Rush, and Blitz once again, and I can assembly with Machinedramon. Now the question is, how am I going to try to keep my turn to make an attack right here? Well, one of the things I really like is the BT7 Metal Greymon, and that definitely comes in clutch because we can utilize this on-play effect to potentially gain memory, and with its inherent effect to also gain memory. Once again, you guys can see I'm trying to consider if I should stack a Cyberdra Ace just to de-digivolve him and play around stuff, but I felt like, okay, I might just stack it instead of trying to utilize this on-play effect now this time, because I really actually need to gain that 2 memory back with the Metal Greymon effect here instead. So then I can actually make the attacks that way. I can still de-digivolve them by 1 as I attack here. So I'm going to de-digivolve the AVAULT Core because that's one of the biggest bodies that I don't want to, deal with generally. And now they have to see if they decide if they want to redirect the attack with the Digit A card or not. They do, so we're going to use the Unsuspend of Mugendramon, always making sure it's at the bottom stack, because so that when we delete it, we can unsuspend and just put in the trash. And technically, I could have go into Chaos X and then see where I go from there, but I actually don't even need to, because even with that memory, I'm supposed to gain extra memory because deleting a Digimon off the Metal Grey inherited effect. But I can just go straight assembly once again, play another Machinedramon, go through the whole shenanigans, tuck a source if I need to, but then I still get to blitz for game, and I don't think they have absolutely anything that can stop us anymore at this point. And that's the craziness that you guys can see on how Machinedramon can finish games out of nowhere. The Mega Machine Playmat and Sleeves are live on the AVAULT store, so make sure to grab yours right now. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, whatever you are. See you in the next video, and this is AVAULT signing